Hello, my dear students. We have Introduction to English Literature course. Today we deal with Chapter 9, Early 19th Century Poets. The first remarkable poets we have Wordsworth, William Wordsworth, and Coleridge, Samuel Coleridge. They both collaborated to produce lyrical ballads, which is, a collection of English poems. Wordsworth was a poet of nature and had the special ability to throw charm over ordinary things, while Coleridge had, on the other hand, could make mysterious events acceptable to a reader's mind. Neither of them said or used the old language of poetry much. Wordsworth was so filled with the love of nature that in later editions of the lyrical ballads, 1802, he said that the language of poetry ought to be the same as the language of a simple farmer or farm worker. Yet he could not keep to this idea himself. His imagination led him to far beyond the life and thoughts of a countryman. Coleridge's poems, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, appeared in the first edition of the lyrical ballad. An old sailor describes some strange misfortunes that happened to his ship. It was in the ice of the pool when he shot a great bird. For this crime, a curse fell on the ship. The wind failed, the water supply ended, and all of other sailors died of thirst. We turn to another poems. We have two other important poems by Coleridge, not in the lyrical ballads, are Christabel and Kubla Khan. Neither was finished, but there is gain magic in each. Christabel finds the beautiful lady Geraldine in a wood and brings her home. Geraldine claims to be the daughter of an old friend of Christabel's father, who has quarreled with him. But this is not true, because she is in fact an evil spirit in the form of Geraldine. This poem is one of the most beautiful in English. Among the more noticeable lines are the following, which refer to the quarrel. And Constance lives in realms above, and life is thorny, and youth is vain, and to be worth with one we love doth work the madness in brain. Wordsworth's part in the lyrical ballads was more difficult to perform successfully than Coleridge's, for he had to make ordinary things seem wonderful. He wrote more than half the book, and his love of nature is immediately clear. In lines written above Tintern Abbey, the poet returns to a scene of his boyhood, sits under a tree, and looks at the lovely views which he used to remember when far away. But oft in lonely rooms and mid the den of towns and cities I have owed to them in hours of weariness, as sensation sweet felt in the blood and felt along the heart. Among his sweet or best sonnets are Westminster Bridge, an emotional view of London asleep, and London 1802. The latter is a cry for help in the troubles of the world. Milton, thou shouldest be living at the hour at this hour. England hath need of thee. Well known among other short poems are The Daffodils, The Solitary Eber, and Lucy. The Ode, an intimation of immortality, 1807, is longer and more important. The poet finds a basis of faith in memories of childhood before the business of the world has shut off the view of heaven. Shades of prison house began to close upon the growing boy, but he beholds the light, and whence it flows, he sees it in his joy. George Gordon, Lord Byron, was a romantic figure, but his poetry was much influenced by the classical form of pop. Byron dressed splendidly, went to fight for the freedom of Greece, satirized many sides of English life, and hated all false and insincere talk. He died of fever at Missolonghi in western Greece, but his body was brought home to England for burial. Child Harold, one of Byron's greatest poems, written in the Spessarian stanza, tells the story of a man who goes off to travel far and wide because he is disgusted with his life's foolish pleasures. The man is, in fact, Lord Byron. The different places that he visits give the poet an opportunity to describe what once happened in them. Thus, in Belgium, the poet remembers the recent battle of Waterloo and the officers' dance that took place in Brussels just before it. There was a sound of revelry by night, and Belgium's capital had gathered then her beauty and her chivalry, and bright the lamps shone over fair women and brave men. Don Juan, 1818-1824, by Byron, a long poem of astonishing adventure, is also a satire which attacks some of Byron's enemies. It starts with a shipwreck and continues with its later results, but the main story is often left so that the poet may put forward ideas on various subjects. Percy Bysshe Shelley was a greater poet than Byron. He was of good family, restless, and rich. He struggled against the causes of human misery and against accepted religions. He saw goodness in the whole nature, and he wanted all men to be free. His first important poem, Alastor, or The Spirit of Solitude, 1816, is in blank verse and shows Wordsworth's influence. It expresses joy in the universe and sorrow for the violent feelings of men. The Revolt of Islam, 1818, is a cry of impatience at the cruelty of the world. but it is too long. It's about 5,000 lines. Shelley loved the wild wind, but John Keats loved beauty and rest, stillness. A friend in 1813 gave him Spenser's Faerie Queene to read, and this awoke his poetic powers. He studied the poets and studied nature. 2. He could write lines in Wordsworth's manner, but with more music, such lines as a little noiseless noise among the leaves. Hybern, 1818-1819 was never finished. Hybern is the old sun god, the young Apollo god of music and poetry, and the sun is introduced, but there the poem ends. It contains several examples of the stillness in some of Keats' poetry. No stir of air was there, not so much life as on a summer's day. Perhaps not one light seed from the feathered grass, but where the dead leaf fell, there and did it rest. The same effects, of course, may be found in his Ode to a Grecian Urn, 1819, a description of the figures on the side which will never move. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Other great odes written at about the same time are To a Nightingale, My Heart Aches, and To Autumn, Season of Mist. He wrote more than 20 sonnets. One of the best is On First Looking into Chapman, Homer, Oft have I travelled.